It was the silence that unsettled me the most. Our village was never silent. There were always sounds, the children's laughter, the hammering of the blacksmith, the chatter of women washing clothes by the river. But on that day, something felt different. The air was thick, almost as if the village itself was holding its breath, waiting for something terrible to happen. The day started like any other. Tariq, the master weaver, was at his loom early, as always. I remember watching him from the doorway of his small shop, the rhythmic sound of his hands working the loom filling the space. There was something magical about watching Tariq work. It wasn't just that he made beautiful tapestries, he poured his heart into each piece. Every thread he wove seemed to carry a bit of joy, a piece of life itself. Kwame was his apprentice, a young man from the next village over. He was ambitious, that much was clear. He watched Tariq with hungry eyes, eager to learn every secret, every technique. But there was something else in Kwame, something that made me uneasy. It wasn't jealousy exactly, but it was close. Kwame wanted to be great, like Tariq, and that ambition, though admirable, carried a weight I couldn't quite place. Everything changed when Zora arrived in the village. Zora was the kind of woman people noticed. She wasn't just beautiful, she had a presence that filled every space she entered. Her laugh was infectious, her smile like sunlight after a storm. It wasn't long before both Kwame and Tariq were caught up in her charm. Though neither said it out loud, I could see it in their eyes. The way they lingered a little longer when she passed by, the way they straightened up when she came into view. But it was Kwame who made the first move. He began weaving tapestries late into the night. Long after Tariq had closed the shop, he was determined to impress Zora, to show her that he was not just an apprentice, but a master in his own right. And so, one night, when the village was quiet, and the moon hung low in the sky, Kwame did something I never thought he would. He stole one of Tariq's designs, one of the most intricate, beautiful patterns Tariq had ever made, and claimed it as his own. The next day, he presented the tapestry to Zora. I'll never forget the look on her face when she saw it. She was in awe, praising Kwame for his talent. He smiled, basking in her admiration, but I could see the guilt creeping in around the edges of his smile. He had stolen that design, taken it without permission, and passed it off as his own. But he said nothing, and neither did I. The days that followed were filled with tension. Kwame's name spread through the village like wildfire. People spoke of him as if he were a prodigy, a master weaver. Zora grew closer to him, and the two were seen together more often. Tariq, for his part, remained silent. He never accused Kwame of stealing, never confronted him, but I could see the sadness in his eyes, the weight of knowing that his apprentice had betrayed him. But then, something strange began to happen. The tapestries that Kwame wove after that night, though beautiful, though perfect in every way, began to lose their magic. People didn't notice it at first, but I did. The joy that was once woven into every thread was gone. The tapestries felt empty. They were technically flawless, but they lacked the warmth, the life that Tariq's work had. And it wasn't just the tapestries. The village itself seemed to change. There was a heaviness in the air, a quietness that settled over everything. And then, the sickness came. It started with a few people, but soon, it spread like wildfire. Men, women, children, none were spared. Their strength faded, their bodies racked with fever. The village healers did what they could, but nothing seemed to work. The sickness took hold and wouldn't let go. Zora was one of the first to fall ill. Kwame was devastated. He stayed by her side day and night, his once ambitious hands now trembling with fear. He couldn't bear the thought of losing her, and as the days passed, his guilt grew heavier. He had betrayed his master, stolen his work, and now, it seemed the village was paying the price. One evening, as the sun set and the village was bathed in an eerie red light, I saw Kwame approach Tariq's shop. I followed, keeping my distance, curious to see what would happen. He stood at the door for what felt like an eternity before knocking softly. Tariq, he called, his voice barely a whisper. Inside, Tariq sat at his loom, as always, his hands moving slowly, methodically. He didn't look up when Kwame entered. The silence between them was thick, almost suffocating. I need your help, Kwame finally said. his voice breaking. Tariq stopped working, his hands stilling over the loom. What do you need, Kwame? Kwame fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, he sobbed. I took your design. I lied. I wanted her to love me. I wanted the village to see me as they see you. Tariq didn't move. He simply watched Kwame, his face expressionless, his eyes unreadable. I never meant for this to happen, Kwame continued. But now Zora is sick. And the village, it's like the joy is gone. Please, Tariq, I don't know what to do. For a long moment, Tariq said nothing. Then, slowly, he stood and walked over to Kwame, kneeling beside him. The joy, Kwame, doesn't come from the design. It comes from the heart of the weaver. You cannot steal that. Kwame looked up, his face wet with tears. What do I do? You must fix what you have broken, Tariq said softly.